Hi, I'm Leonie West from Westalee Design, and I'm going to show you how we use our flying bell curve template. This is part of our London collection, and we have a book available for you. We actually have two. One shows you design inspirations, which gives you 160 designs that can be made with this template. This one is our 12 quilting designs book. And in here we have 12 different designs that you can make with a bell curve. They can be made in any size. We do tell you what size I used in my samples, but you could make it with a 3-inch or a 6-inch or a 2-inch, it's up to you. And you can use the bell curve to create borders. You can use it to do blocks. I'm going to sew our 7th pattern in the book, which is made up of 4 bell curve squares, and we start at the center to do this. And there's a reason for that. It means that we can go the whole way around without having to backtrack and continuously. I'm going to sew it first where I don't put the ribbon in, and then I'll put the ribbon in to show you how we do a ribbon. The pattern tells you how we begin. I begin by putting our 8 crosshair reference lines in. And this is what our pattern looks like when it's drawn out. We begin by sewing 1 bell curve and a 2nd bell curve. Then we're going to sew, and that's a bell curve square. So we'll sew 4 squares. Those 4 squares make the pattern up. We start in the center. We're then going to go around and sew the outer edges of the bell curve only. That will create our ribbon effect. So this is how it looks if it's just quilted. And there are lots and lots of things we can do with a bell curve. So here we go. I've marked my crosshair reference lines, and I'm lining up my center lines with my reference lines. I'm also lining up the line that runs through. I've marked 8 crosshair reference lines using our crosshair ruler. I'm using the 3-inch flying bell curve. We're starting in the center. I've brought my threads up, and I've got my reference lines matching my crosshair reference lines. We're going to sew around the bell curve, and when we get back to the middle, we're going to turn the template. The great thing about the bell curves is that there are so many different designs you can do with it. We're going to stop in the center. Now we're going to turn the template around. So we're matching the opposites. We're going to line up our reference lines again and sew the next bell curve. This will be our first bell curve square. Just going to hit the point and come back. Once we've sewn this one, we'll do the same thing. We repeat this, so we have 4 bell curve squares sewn. So that's, I'll just take the key out and show you that one. Bell curves are one of the templates that I do like to have stable tape on. So that's our little square, and that could be a pattern in its own. So for our 2nd bell curve square, remember to align the same pattern in this center part of the block. So we line up our reference lines again, and we'll sew the next one. And back to the center. Now we will turn the template again, and we're creating this petal shape in here. So as long as you make sure you've got that petal shape there, you've turned the template to the right position. Line up our reference lines again, and we'll sew the next one. come back to this, around and back to the centre. Stop in the centre. Turn the template again. Align your reference lines. Back around and back to the centre. I'll sew the rest of these and I'll come and show you how to do the next part. We have the last bell curve to sew, and once we've done this one, we will then use the template in a different way to create our ribbon effect. Back to the centre again. And one more to complete that square. Lining up our reference points. And back down to the centre. I'll take this out so you can see the bell curve as it is. So that's a very simple flying bell curve pattern. We can fill in the spaces. We can do for the next part where we're going to create the ribbon on our bell curve block. We're going to put the point at the centre to the middle, where before we had it sitting on the outer edge. We're now going to put it in the middle. This will give us another block. We're not going to sew through the centre here. What we're going to do is sew up to this edge here. Because we want a ribbon to form the whole way around the outer edge of each one of these squares, we're going to turn the template at the top here. So we're going to come up to the top here, stop it where the points meet. I'm now going to bring the template around here. If you look at that, it's the same as what we sewed before. So we keep going round. This is going to give us the next portion of the ribbon. We will sew all the way over to this side. Then we'll turn the template again. This makes a block of its own. If you wanted to, this is another variation of the bell curve. To just sew this part of the bell curve. It can also create a frame for going around another block. Right, so we've sewn that one. I'm going to turn that and move that template for you so that you can see how the ribbon has formed. We'll put the template back in place. If you think you've got lost, remember, that's the same one we sewed before. And now we turn the template back to the centre again. Remember to keep aligning as you go. Make sure our reference lines are in the right places. And we'll sew back to the middle. So we've finished that one, and we'll just keep going around. Bring the template to here. I'm in the wrong position. I can tell because my pattern's repeating. Turn the template so that it's not repeating. Align the reference lines. Remember, we've already sewn one block. So you may find when you're doing this that there is, your points might not seem to be in the correct position, because as we sew these, every stitch we put into our quilt shrinks our quilt. So you may just find that you need to just have a little variance in where you stitch. So you come up to here. I can tell that this is not going to be in exactly the center position because I'm sitting high on here. That's because of draw up in the quilt. Can't stop that. So I just moved the template just a tiny bit. Now I'm back on the right position and sew around. So if you find that you need to just move 1 millimeter, one stitch, just move it that one stitch and make sure that you wind up on your points. Every stitch we put in our quilts shrinks our quilts. So we line them up again, turn the template, make sure the reference lines are in place. Stop in the middle, and now we're going to do the top one. So that's 2 lots of ribbons done. Make sure the reference lines are all back in place again. Got to turn the template for this one. It's really easy to tell if you're in the wrong position because you can actually see that the pattern's mimicking the one that's already sewn. Back up to the point, stop, turn the template around again, line up the reference lines. The 3-inch bell curve, when you sew it this way, will give you a 6-inch block. The 6-inch bell curve will give you a 12-inch block. And we go back out to our point here, stop, and now we're going to aim at the centre again. And that's a full turn there. I'm just going to cut these threads away. Line up the reference lines. To the centre, and we have one left to go. Bring our template around again. Line up your reference lines. And we have one line of ribbon to go. So we're going to come back and aim for that last ribbon going in here. Back down to the centre. I'll just do a couple of stitches on top here. There's a few stitches in the middle, so I can do those extra stitches to finish off those threads. I would normally sew them in. So that's our flying bell curve with a ribbon. So our ribbon's only on the centre pieces, on the outer edge, and from there we can put cross hatching in here. We can use our bell curve to fill out this space with cross hatching. So I hope you enjoy playing with our flying bell curve.